Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really critical strategic idea. Why do even the most brilliant plans sometimes crash and burn right at the finish line? And, more importantly, how can you make sure that doesn't happen to you? I mean, you've seen this happen, right? A project gets off to a fantastic start. It's hitting all its marks, racking up wins. And then, just when victory seems certain, the whole thing just collapses. Why? What goes wrong? Well, for some answers, we're turning to Robert Greene's hugely influential and, pretty controversial book, The 48 Laws of Power. You can think of it as a modern guide to strategy, and it pulls its lessons from some of the sharpest and most ruthless minds in all of history. Now, what makes this book so powerful is its method. Greene doesn't just give you vague advice. No, he digs through 3,000 years of human history. We're talking ancient empires, Renaissance courts, you name it, to find these timeless, fundamental rules of power and how people operate. So first things first, let's get a handle on the book's core idea. It basically frames all of human interaction as this massive, high-stakes game, a game that has a very clear set of rules. And for every single law, we get to see it play out with real-world examples. We see the historical figures who followed the rules, that's the observance, and achieved incredible things. And then we see the ones who ignored them, the transgression, and met with absolute disaster. It's a fascinating study in cause and effect. Okay, so today we're zeroing in on one of the most important principles in the whole book, especially if you have any kind of long-term goal, and that is Law 29. This law is just such a powerful warning against short-term thinking. See, most of us, we plan the first couple of moves. We think about how to start. But Greene argues that the real masters, the true strategists, they plan all the way to the end, through the victory, through the celebration, and into the messy, complicated situation that comes after. So this isn't just some vague concept. It actually breaks down into 3 key pillars. It's not just about having a goal. It's about vividly imagining the consequences of your success, thinking through how other people will react, and maybe most importantly, knowing exactly when to stop so you don't accidentally create a whole new set of problems for yourself. So what happens when you ignore this law? To really understand the price you pay, we're going to look at a classic cautionary tale. Greene gives us the perfect and honestly brutal example from the ancient world. Let's meet our main character, Cyrus the Great. Now, this wasn't just some random king. This guy was one of the greatest military minds in history. He was the founder of the gigantic Persian Empire. So Cyrus is at the absolute height of his power. He's won battle after battle. And he sets his sights on this fierce, nomadic tribe called the Massagetae. Let's be real, he was confident, he was successful, and he was probably feeling a little bit invincible. Their leader, a formidable woman named Queen Tamiris, actually warns him to back off. But does he listen? Of course not. Instead, he comes up with this incredibly devious plan. He baits a trap, setting up a lavish banquet camp filled with tons of strong wine, and then he leaves it guarded by his worst, most expendable soldiers. And it works. It works perfectly. The Massagetae army, led by the queen's own son, storms the camp. They drink all the wine, get completely drunk, and are captured without a fight. On the surface, it's a brilliant, flawless, short-term victory for Cyrus. But this is the exact moment where Cyrus's planning failed. He won the battle, but he never ever considered the emotional fallout. By humiliating the queen and capturing her son, he didn't just win a small victory. He created an enemy who was now consumed by pure, absolute rage. And she made this terrifying vow. He totally failed to plan for the consequences, and Queen Tamiris, now driven by nothing but vengeance, lures the overconfident Cyrus into one final battle. And just like that, the great conqueror's army is annihilated, and he is killed. He won the opening move, but he lost the entire game because he never thought about the ending. You see, Cyrus's failure wasn't a tactical one. It wasn't about his skill on the battlefield. It was a failure of vision. And this story is such a powerful lesson in what it really means to think ahead. So this really boils down to 2 totally different mindsets. On one side, you have the reactive mind, just like Cyrus. It gets blinded by the thrill of a quick win. But on the other side, you have the strategic mind. It doesn't just react, it guides the future. It knows when the job is done, and it secures not just a single win, but lasting glory. So what are the big takeaways from all this?
Well, planning to the end is not about making a to-do list. It's about having clarity, because a fuzzy goal is just going to lead to a messy ending. It's about emotional control, fighting that arrogance that comes with a quick victory. And maybe the biggest lesson of all is understanding that the end isn't just you hitting your goal. It's the whole new reality you've just created for yourself.
And that leaves us with a final question for you to think about. Look at your own goals, your projects, your career. Are you just planning for the win? Or have you really thought about the consequences, the reactions of others, and the new world you'll be living in once you succeed? Have you truly planned all the way to the end?